What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back. I guess we're doing part 2 of all the Street Fighter 5 questions that you guys were too scared to ask, but you did it anyways. I'm here to answer all of your questions. Are they dumb questions? Are they smart questions? It doesn't matter. It's a safe space. Listen, anything you wanted to know about Street Fighter 5, I asked Twitter, what did you want to know? And you guys came out and you asked a lot of questions. Here's part 2. We're going to carry on. There's too many responses, but these are good questions. So let's break it down. Garrett Fish asks, as a new low diamond player, how valuable is it to start carving out time to attend tournaments? Would my time be better spent in ranked training mode until I can win more consistently? What's your goal, Garrett? What do you care about? If you want to win tournaments, enter tournaments. If you just want to play the game, then do whatever you want, right? So I'm guessing your goal here is maybe to just be good at the game in general. I think getting tournament experience is always valuable. There's no reason to not enter a tournament. There's a big misconception with the FGC that you have to be a certain level to enter tournaments. Every tournament, 25% of the players are going 0-2. Curly's in the chat here. Maybe how many people go 1-2? 50%? Is that how it is? Am I doing the math right? Most people do bad in tournaments. It's just a statistical fact. You can't avoid it. So don't be scared about doing bad in tournaments because it's part of the experience and learning, but depends on your goals. If you're trying to get good, do all of it. Do it all. Garrett Schatzer asked, if you're looking for content, I like to see a video aimed at intermediate players, like what's important to be working on for gold platinum players. I know similar videos have been done before, but I think you'd have valuable insight here. I was going to do this. Why you're stuck in silver, why you're stuck in gold, platinum, whatever. And then I didn't. It was a lot of editing and a lot of note taking and a lot of work. And I'm proud of the why you're stuck in bronze video. But I feel like once you get up higher ranks, it becomes more like an individual basis what your issues are. You can compare 2 different gold or platinum players and they look like completely different players. It's not always the same thing. Like the one general common thread is learn how to learn. That's going to affect people at every level. So I just kind of abandoned it. And now I just do react content on stream and make my editor AA do all the heavy lifting. Convicted of Fun, Ryan. Okay, what's going on? What is your opinion on the trajectory of Street Fighter V's life since launch? Was it always enjoyable? How were the low points as a competitor? I feel like I'm asking too big a question here, LOL. Yeah, kind of a big one. But yeah, Street Fighter V on launch, kind of ass, kind of terrible, horrible online, no content. Gameplay was just mediocre so-so, a lot of glitches, a lot of bugs. It was just a rough experience. I think once Season 2 came around, the game was definitely improved. A lot of the bugs had been ironed out, but I don't feel like the game was complete until Season 3 with Arcade Edition. That's when it was a good product. And Season 4 was it all came together. Season 4 and beyond, I feel like the game was in a great shape and I really enjoyed playing the game a lot since then. It started off pretty rough, but the game pulled through, and it's honestly, at this point, I might have more fun with Street Fighter V at this point than Ultra. I always said Street Fighter 4 is my favorite fighting game, but I really enjoy playing Street Fighter V right now. Ian Rayon, you asked, good sir, as someone with experience in games like Guilty Gear, Persona 4 Arena, and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, as a Street Fighter newbie, I'm having a lot of trouble discerning the purpose of each button. Can you enlighten me? For instance, 5 HK doesn't seem special cancelable like 5 HP, but does the same damage? Akira. There's some common rules across characters in Street Fighter V and in Street Fighter in general, but don't count on them to be hard and fast rules like you might experience in other games. Every move is going to have its own purpose, and you're going to have to figure that out on your own, or not on your own, but you know, as you learn your character, look for resources. But there are some common threads, right? Like crouching heavy kick with most characters is the sweep. It's not going to be special cancelable on most characters. Colleen can special cancel hers. It's going to cause a knockdown on most characters. Seth's crouching heavy kick does not knock down, right? Seth's sweep is their crouching heavy punch, right? So you're gonna have to learn what each button does for each character independently. And then you can start drawing connections like, oh, this button fits into this class of button. Like this is a heavy punch, this is a crouching fierce anti-air. You know, you can kind of follow these trends, but it's not hard coded into the game. Like Guilty Gear often has some rules for the buttons, like the 5P, for example, is your anti-air button. Doesn't really exist in Street Fighter in the same way. 6P, oh, well, whatever. Logan Melius asks, how do you escape the corner against walk-up throw strike pressure? I try to visually confirm what my opponent is doing before hard committing to attacking or pressing, but I'm usually too slow to attack and get thrown over and over. That's your mistake. I usually try to visually confirm what my opponent is doing. You don't get that luxury. There's some things in this game you can visually confirm. Throw situations are not one of them. You do not visually confirm the throw. You can visually confirm that it looks like they're going to attempt to throw soon. That's what you get to confirm. If it looks like they're about to walk up for another throw, don't even bother teching, you mash a jab. You interrupt their walk. Stop them from getting into the range. Now, what if they walk up, stop short, and press a heavy punch? Well, you might get crush countered. This is just life. Once you're in the defensive position, you are at disadvantage, but you cannot expect to have a 100% confirmable solution to every problem. You're going to have to commit to an action eventually. The fact that you can't react to the throw is what glues this game and the Street Fighter series and Street Fighter 4 together, right? So you're going to have to commit to something. So try pressing jab next time they're going for throws over and over. Interrupt them, stop them. Azul asks, now that we are at the end of Street Fighter V, what are overall thoughts on the V system and how it's implemented in Street Fighter V? I don't really think of the V system as a system. To me, the correlation of the V skill to the V trigger and all that is very minimal. Some characters can really build V meter really heavily with their V skill, so that is a factor to consider. But I kind of consider for most people, V skill is just another special move that they have, right? So to me, it doesn't really link in with the V system. I kind of like the idea of the V shift, the V reversal. You exchange your comeback factor with the V trigger. I do enjoy that. I don't mind V trigger as a mechanic as much as other people would. Maybe the resulting effects of them could be altered a little bit, but I don't mind having a comeback factor. Ooh, Boogeyman comeback factor. Maybe the V trigger could have been done differently because there are weird situations where like say both players are getting low on life and they're both one hit away from V trigger. Suddenly no one wants to hit each other because the first person to get hit is going to get the V trigger and then is going to be able to more easily checkmate the other person. So maybe it could have been reworked. So maybe V trigger is something you have like X factor, you have it at the start of round or something, and you can only burn it once. I really don't mind having dynamic systems like that where you can be enhanced for a period of time for burning a resource. I think that's cool because it allows busted stuff to exist. You can't have Tengu Stone with Oro if you had it all the time. You have to gatekeep it somehow, right? But I like that Tengu Stone exists. People like that stuff. People pretend they don't like that stuff. You like it. You like feeling powerful for a little bit. It's fun, but it has to be in moderation. So that's the key, is how can you most effectively moderate the crazy over the top stuff. But overall, I think it was decent, but it doesn't feel like a whole system to me. It feels like independent mechanics. Aranage asks how to deal with fireballs without jumping predictably. It's going to depend on the character, right? You know, you're rocking the Dan. That's going to be the bane of your existence, but walk and block is always the option that is on the table. You can try neutral jumping as well to reset it. If you don't have an anti-fireball tool, you're mostly just doing walk and block and then picking your time to either get in range to interrupt the startup of their fireball and it hit their extended hurt box, getting through it with meter, EXDPs or something like that, and then eventually jumping. It's hard to say. I feel like the strategy is going to vary based on the character heavily, but I think people forget the power of a neutral jump. That's one thing that's pretty general. If you neutral jump a fireball, they can't throw another one until that fireball passes through and gets off screen. So that's a whole bunch of time where you can freely walk and gain ground when they cannot throw another fireball. Oh, V-shift. Yeah, good call out, Bright BX. V-shift. That's one I forget about too myself. Some characters have really far V-shifts. You can V-shift the fireball, reel back, and V-break to knock them down and gain ground. So V-reversal in the same regard, if you're close enough and you block it early enough, you can also V-reversal. So use your V-meter, walk and block, neutral jump. Those are some universal options. Judd here asks, I've watched many videos, I get the concept, but I've always struggled with simplifying frame data and how to test what works in matchups. I know it's character specific of character A versus character B. Okay, so these are multiple things that you asked here. You got to be specific with what the problem is you're having here, right? What are you testing? I would assume you mean punish, considering you're saying in matchups. If a move is -3 on block, it doesn't matter who blocks it, it's going to be -3. If you're trying to test what options your character has to block that move and punish it, for example, that's going to be something you can lap. So if you block Balrog's dash punch, -4, doesn't matter who you are. If your character is in range for their 4-frame move to connect, you got to punish. That's one kind of universal application of using the frame data to quickly guess on what you can do to punish. You go to the lab, you can test what's out yourself, you kind of understand it. P4KU asks, I'm definitely scared of getting blown up by wake up DPs, but I think that's because I don't know how to think about risk reward. Outside of playing the game a bunch, is there a way to mindfully practice and understand risk reward? Playing a bunch helps, but you can also just think about it. What is the punish you get on baiting certain things? You shouldn't let a DP deter you from ever pressuring them. If you get hit by a DP, it's not the end of the world usually. You lose a small percentage of life. So that means usually you should be pressuring them because the risk for them is huge and the reward for them is minimal. Even if you eat 3 DPs, you block one of them, you're going to make up that life difference and more. Don't be scared of people waking up DP. It can happen here and there, but who cares, really? Eli Wynn asks, I'm more used to charge characters, and I'm practicing light punishes with crouch jab into DP shortcut down forward plus P. If they are close for 2, I hit it every time, but if they are spaced to where you can only get 1 jab, I'm not 100% consistent. Any secrets for spaced light punishes? I think this is an issue with your hands not being primed. So if you get a punish and you can do jab, jab, DP as the punish, you have time to prime your hand to do the DP, but when you do it from a single jab, I think your hand that's controlling the directional inputs is not primed to do it. When you're moving around in neutral and you're blocking, your hand is in a different position than when you're priming to do a combo. I've had that issue in the past as well, where like, depending on what I did previously, it would impact my execution for the next sequence. If I did it in training mode and I primed to do the sequence, my joystick hand is positioned appropriately to make it easy. But when I'm moving around in neutral and I'm in a blocking position or whatever, I might want to like rotate my hand first or do something else to make the input easier. So pay attention to how you're priming your hands to do this in a real match and practice the punish from that non-primed position and you'll get better at it. Chris CCH asks, how do I beat Balrog crouching medium punch? I told him, pick Luke and... I couldn't find a version of this GIF without the, I believe, Russian text overlay. I couldn't find it. I don't know what he's on about Balrog's crouching medium punch. Maybe that's the answer to Luke. All right, Samuel Stryker asks, glad you're doing this. Could you review my gameplay as Seth and see what I'm doing wrong? How can I fix it? My gamer tag is this, that, and the third. So Samuel Stryker, I had a bit of a conversation with him. This is a pretty good lesson in general. He's asking me to do gameplay review and to, go out of my way, spend a bunch of time doing all this. And, I talked to him. I was like, well, I'm not going to do that, first of all, because that's not time efficient for me. But I think this was a good exercise and figuring out how to figure out what you don't know. So I told him you should start by breaking down the problem and asking a small question that I can answer here. You need to be able to recognize the questions you have. That's the first lesson, right? A big problem that people have when they ask for advice is they don't ask specific questions. They ask, how do I get better? Well, what are you bad at? What are you trying to get better at? If you start asking yourself those questions, you'll be able to help diagnose one thing that you can get better at. Getting just better is a process. It's not a question. How do I get better? It's a process. The process is you identify flaws in your gameplay and you start addressing them. I can't tell you how to get better. I can. That's how you do it. But me saying that is not going to make you better. So if you need to figure out individual things that you can actually deal with, I can give you concrete advice. To beat X, you do Y. That's concrete. That's objective. You need to start piecing those things together, and then eventually you can form a cohesive game plan and strategy knowing all this knowledge. Samuel Stryker continued, I spend most of my time staying defensive, backdashing after hands, walking away after opponents knocked down in corner. I'm wondering what are some aggressive options I can use. To me, it's saying, why did you walk away? You're trying to be aggressive, but you're backing up and you're giving up pressure when you get knockdowns. So why are you doing that? He says, I back away to avoid wake-up options, grabs, 3 frames, and DP-like moves. If I do stage the challenge, I get destroyed by these wake-up options, like trying to grab and getting DP in process. So how do you deal with the wake-up options, right? Block, 3-frame, grabs, tech grabs, and B shifts. As long as you concretely know how to beat each one of those options, then you can start thinking about things like risk reward and likelihood of these options occurring. So he goes on to list some of these options that he can use to counter these things. I didn't bother even reading these, but this is the idea. I'm just trying to get him to think. I'm trying to lead the horse to water right now. The main thing here is know the options well, but he mentioned something that makes me think he's not understanding the risk reward, which is if I do state a challenge, I get destroyed by things like DP. You don't get destroyed by a DP. You're still in the game. What happens next? So maybe the problem isn't the DP, because if you block that DP, you should kill them. You need to ensure that your combo on that DP punish is so juicy, they will go, oh, damn, I don't want a DP ever again. But if you do get hit by the DP, then what happens next? Are you freaking out and then you're dying on defense? Maybe the problem is not that your offense is bad and you can't be aggressive. The problem is you're scared of being aggressive because if it doesn't work out, your defense is bad and you lose. That might be the problem. And I think that's enough to chew on. Stephen Main Vox here asks, what do you think of the story? Where do you think it's heading? And my answer to that is, I don't. Jose Aguirre, what's up, 8-Bit? How do you go from understanding how, why you lost right after a match to seeing the changes that need to be done mid-match and actually being able to change your plan, reset yourself before losing. This can be tough, but I've definitely been able to recognize things mid-match. I don't really have a good way to tell you how to get that though. I'm really trying to think. Streaming has helped me because just having this dialogue, like speaking my thoughts out loud, I feel like helps make it conscious. But I do think you should try to take a break between matches, especially if you're in tournament. Take that break, take a moment and think about it. But I guess you're saying mid-match. Mid-match I'm counting as a set. Good question. If you have a concrete answer, let me know. So far for me, I don't have a good way to explain it. I think I've gotten that feeling through experience, to be honest. I think just being in so many tournament matches and playing so much, I've gotten that experience to feel it. And normally I feel like I would like to be able to consciously conjure up how to do it, but I don't have that. I don't know. That's an interesting question. If I get that answer, I'll let you know, or maybe you'll figure it out first. Jesterful, Dakota here, writes in and says, this is more of a general FGC question. I've only ever been to one major CEO 2021 and had friends to warm up, play friendlies with. This year I'm going to CEO for Street Fighter V and I don't have friends who play. How can I approach a setup and ask for friendlies at a major? That's wild. I think we have an episode of No Neutral coming up that will cover this topic, and I've talked about it plenty of times on stream. There's definitely a meta to asking for next. First of all, get a vibe for what's going on around you. Maybe ask people who are around the setups but not playing, like, oh, is this tournament, right? First of all, you got to make sure it's not tournament. Like, oh, is this tournament? No, but no, it's casuals, whatever. Once you hear that, you go, oh, does anyone have next, referring to the crowd behind the people playing? Like, are you guys in line to play? And then they'll be like, yeah, or they'll be like, oh, we got these people waiting, or they'll be like, no, we're just watching, right? Usually they're watching because they don't have the gall to do the next step. Now you have to wait for a break in the action on the set in front of you, and maybe a KO, the game just ended, and be like, oh, hey, what are you guys playing to? And they might say, we're just playing. First to two, first to three, or we're just playing. That's when you got to set up the terms. Oh, you mind if I get next after a first to two? You know what I'm saying? It's a negotiation process. Once you establish the terms of the set, keep a sharp eye on it, count the score. When it comes to time and that person loses 2 games, be like, oh, was that 2? Remind them. And they'll go, yeah, at that point. That's when they'll unplug their controller and get up. If you don't remind them, they will hit rematch swiftly. It's very important. The reminder is key to getting the process moving. But if you nail those steps, you'll be able to play. And then you get a rotation going, and it should be all good at that point. Kevin Toy, CLG's Pew Pew U, writes in, what's the one thing or multiple in Street Fighter for you that had to be learned through experience rather than being taught? I mean, a lot of it you learn through osmosis, right? Just playing. But I guess dealing with salt. No one told me how to deal with salt, right? That's something I had to learn for myself. I feel like it's all the emotional side of it. You had to learn it yourself, right? There's no one who could tell you how to process your emotions when playing through a fighting game. And I was very, very salty, and still am to this day. When I first started playing Street Fighter online, it was definitely much more rage-inducing than any other genre of gaming I'd played. Played a bunch of shooters beforehand, but when you play in a team game format, you kind of get the blame spread out across all the parties. But Street Fighter, man, it hit different. So learning how to process emotion and tilts and all that was very hard. I definitely never tilted as hard in a shooting game as I have in fighting games. So the emotional side, how to handle the pressure, handle the tilt, handle the salt. No one really teaches you that. You kind of have to experience it yourself and learn how to process it yourself. And I think we'll cut it there, guys. Thanks so much for watching this episode of your Street Fighter V questions being answered. We have so many more. It's too many. We'll keep it going as long as the questions are interesting. So please let me know if you are enjoying this series of videos. If you guys enjoy it, there's tons of questions here. I'll keep going as long as you guys are enjoying it. So let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.